Speaking of what else is news, Sam, what else is on your radar screen today, my friend?
Well, I think what else here is of interest to me. Again, everybody's looking at budget showdown and so forth. I look at this, Rick, and I think it's worthy of just a couple of comments, but not a whole lot. Only from the standpoint that we're watching a real bizarre issue there. But on, off, maybe not, deal, no deal, negotiate, not negotiate. I find it interesting that the president says he won't negotiate, but in real life, he is clearly negotiating. I look at that and I say, what's really at stake here? What is at stake with what's happening down there? Now, I think there's a couple of things. One, at a very high level, it is, yeah, you are talking fiscal stability. Yes, you are. You are talking other things of that. You're talking Obamacare and whether or not that is actually fully implemented, or that kind of thing. But more than that, I think, Rick, you're talking about whether or not Congress is going to have any control in the process of making law or determining what happens. The president literally is seeking all the control. He says, don't touch Obamacare, don't defund it, don't limit it, don't do anything to it, don't touch it, let it alone. Even though it can't be implemented the way it is, he said, don't touch it, I want it my way, the whole way. He wants a clean resolution bill, he says, but one that gives an uncapped debt ceiling. In other words, let me spend what I want, and removes the spending control. So not only do we not have a budget for 5 years, there's been no budget. So the president has spent literally without anyone being able to say exactly where those monies have gone, because there's been no budget. He says, I want a limit so I can do more of the same, and I want to remove those controls. In fact, this deal coming out of the Senate, which may not happen now, but is that they want to take and remove all of the restrictions that were put in place with the sequester controls that went into effect before. They don't want any controls on anything. Now, if Congress, primarily the House, rolls on this issue, and they give to this president, and effectively the Democrat leadership of the Senate as well, but the president, give them the control to do all of these big things without any limitation, I look and I say, I'm not so sure that Congress is needed. Mm-hmm. They have already backed up on every piece of legitimate control, appropriation-wise, constitutionally. It must be that they've already effectively given that up, Rick, and they don't even know what's being spent. They're going to go further and say, we don't not only care what we don't know, we're just going to give you more control. This is a high stakes issue here, and I'm going to say it's not just the finances, it's really for who controls the process, and are we going to witness, in fact, a total consolidation into the executive branch with a president who seems to want it all and says, if Congress, if you don't give it to me, I'll go around you. Literally, that's what's at stake, I think, Rick, and I think that I think some of this is being lost in the overall discussion on this matter. This is a matter of control, and will the separation of powers be protected by this House, or will it be lost by many who don't have the backbone to stand up and understand what's really at stake?
Well, Sam, our friend Penny Starr from CNS News has written an article about, you talk about the relevancy of Obamacare, of Congress, and that there are 11,588,000 words, 11,588,000 words of Obamacare regulations. That's 30 times more than the law itself. Now, these regulations were not passed by Congress. They were not in the Obamacare bill, but these are the regulations governing Obamacare, which were not passed by Congress. So Congress has become irrelevant, Sam. And
see that is by definition, Rick, tyranny. Our founders were tremendously concerned about it. That's why they took and they split up these branches, but they made the strongest branch the legislative branch. That's what it was supposed to do. But the legislative branch have forfeited, lest they bear the burden at times of election for something goes wrong. It's their fault. They have allowed the executive branch to come in and become the larger focus so that people can vent their anger and get the president out and perhaps leave some of them in. But in the process, they have escaped this kind of accountability, but they have absolutely given up this hard-fought and hard-won separation of powers from a king who made the law, enforced the law, and interpreted the law, and are giving it back to the very, very same problem. And this is what I really do believe. I believe that this is the issue that must be discussed, which is not really being talked about. So when we have in our area, Republican congressmen or whatever who have evidence that they really don't think that that they can, they need to go ahead and give the president what he wants so that they don't get labeled as putting us into default or whatever, and backing up on this. Man, I'm saying, come on, guys. This is but a public face of what the problem is. The real problem is, are you going at all any longer to acknowledge that there is a Constitution, or are you just saying, hey, fine, we've given up enough, let's go ahead and give up everything else? I mean, literally, that's what I think is at stake, Rick. It's big. It's big.
It sure is. Sam, getting back to this article by Penny Starr from CNS News, everybody made a big deal that the Obamacare law, was roughly 2,600 pages long. Well, the regulation, there are 10,535 pages of Obamacare regulations. I'm so angry, Sam, I'm stuttering here. 10,535 pages of Obamacare regulations.
And see, Rick, the thing that you're emphasizing is that has the effect of law, which understates exactly what we're saying. That is law. Congress has said to the executive branch, you can take and write regulations which in effect become the force of law. The Obama bill, which was already one of the largest bills ever written, now comes back and is multiplied by many times in the amount of regulations. And I guarantee, Rick, if we thought the provisions of the bill were bad, I guarantee the regulations will be far worse, far more restrictive, and there will be nobody who can go back and respond to them, to a faceless bureaucrat who now does not sit and answer to any voter. So that's a big deal. That's a big deal.